All right. So in the today's session, we are going to see some of the important terminologies in software testing. So far we have seen like what is functional testing types and what are the non-functional testing types in the previous session, right? So in the today's session, we have to learn some of the important terminologies. So in the IT industry, especially in the software testing on day-to-day basis, we frequently use these terms. So we have to know what is the exact meaning of those terms like regression testing, retesting, or smoke and sanity testing, exploratory testing, or ad hoc testing, monkey testing, positive and negative testing, end-to-end testing. So these are the different terms most of the times we use on day-to-day basis in the software industry. Okay, so we have to know exactly what is the meaning of these terms. Now let us discuss what exactly they are. So first one is regression testing. So let me write the notes. Software testing terminology. So the first type of testing is regression testing. So let's try to understand this very clearly, guys, which is very, very important and especially for interview also. So please listen this carefully. So first is regression testing. So what exactly regression testing means? So let me just give you a small example for regression testing. Sometimes your application is having multiple modules, right? So application is having multiple modules. So what developer will do, for example, let us say I have few modules, let's say one, two, three, four. So I have four different modules in your application. So what developer will do is suppose you found some bug in your some module. So let's say I have found some bug in this or I have found some defect in the particular module. So what I will do as a tester, I'll report the defect to the developer. Okay, I report the defect to the developer. So what developer will do is developer will modify that in this particular module. Developer will fix that bug, and then they release a new build. So for example, let us say I have first build. Build is nothing but a software. Okay, small piece of software. Let us say build one. In the build one, I reported one bug to the developer. I found one bug in the build one, and I reported that bug to the developer. So what developer will do is developer fix that bug and again release another build called build number two. Let us say build two. This is a second build. So as a tester, what I have to do in the second build? So let's say build contains a multiple modules. Okay, let's say build two contains or build one contains a four different modules. In some module, I found some bug and reported to the developer. Developer fix that bug in that particular module and then release another build. So in the build number two, as a tester, what I will do is I will verify that bug, whether it is fixed or not, it is working fine or not. And sometimes what happens is because of that change, or sometimes my developer fix the bug. Apart from the bug, they may add some new functionality also in the build number two, or they may delete the existing functionality, or they modify the existing functionality. So whenever the dev is doing some changes in the build, because of that change, there should not be impact on other modules. So for example, in the module number one, he did some change and that should not impact on other modules because there will be some connection between modules in the application, right? There will be some integration takes place. So whenever the dev is done some change on particular build or particular module, there should not be any impact on other modules. So that we have to test, which is called as regression testing. So during the regression testing, tester will verify the bug fixes or a new functionality or modification. Because of those changes, there should not be impact on other modules. And along with that bug fixes and new functionalities, testers will also test the other dependent modules. Okay, other dependent modules. So that is called as a regression testing. Let me just share a small presentation. Okay, so now you can look at here. So testing conducts on modified build to make sure there will not be impact on existing functionality because of changes like adding, deleting, modifying the features. So this is commonly happen while testing that applications. Okay, whenever you report a defect to the developer will fix it, and because of that fix he may add some new functionality or he may delete the existing functionality or he may modify the some features, and those should not affect in the existing functionality. So that you have to make sure. and you have to test that changed functionality along with this impacted functionality. So what on other modules will be impacted because of that change, you have to make sure. So existing functionality should not be broken because of new changes or bug fixes. So that is basically called as regression testing. Very, very important. Okay, definitely people will ask this question in interview. So what is regression testing? Regression testing conducts on modified builds, whether the bug fixes or new changes are working fine or not, and there should not be any impact on other builds or other functionality. Okay, and regression testing can be done in three different ways. So there are three types of regression testings we have: unit regression testing, regional regression testing, full regression testing. Unit regression testing, regional regression testing, full regression testing. Let us understand what exactly is. Unit regression testing means testing only the changes or modifications done by the developer. So in the unit regression testing, what you will do is, suppose we have four different modules and we reported one bug on that particular module to the developer, and developer fixed that bug in that particular module, and we will test only that module. We will test only that particular component and impacted areas also related to that particular component. So testing a specific module where exactly we reported the bug is called as unit regression testing, the first type of testing. Testing only the changes or modification done by the developer. So what exactly the change part? Okay, so where exactly developer is modified, where exactly the developer is changed, only that particular part we are going to test. We are going to test the bug also. Okay, so in the unit regression testing, whatever bug we reported, we will verify whether the bug is fixed or not, and change area. So because of that bug, what are all developer has changed. So developer will intimate you what are all other components have got changed because of this defect. So we will test only those components. Okay, that is called unit regression testing. Means testing only the changes or modifications done by the developer. Only changes or modification will be tested. But regional regression testing, there is another type of testing called regional regression testing. In this regression testing, we test the modified module along with the impacted modules. Testing the modified module along with the impacted modules. What does that mean? In the first unit regression testing, what are all changes have been done by the developer? We tested only those changes. Okay, only that particular module. But in another type of regression testing, regional regression testing, what you will do is, what are all changes have done by the developer, those changes along with that dependent modules, and what are all other modules are impacted, and those modules or those features also will be tested. That is called regional regression testing. So in the unit regression testing, we are just verifying the changes have been done by the developer. Whereas regional regression testing, we are also going to test along with the changes, we are also going to test the impacted area. Suppose this may impact on other modules or some other feature, and those also we need to verify in the regional regression testing. But how we will know the reason, how we will know the impacted areas? So what happens is, in the regional regression testing, there will be a meeting called impact analysis meeting. There will be a meeting called impact analysis meeting conducts to identify impacted models with the QA and dev. As soon as dev is modified something, and dev and QA sit together, and they will discuss where exactly that particular change or bug fix will be impacted. So that will be conducted between QA and dev. So they do some kind of impact analysis meeting. Impact analysis means what? Interview question again. What is impact analysis? So during impact analysis meeting, we will identify the impacted modules because of new changes, because of adding a new functionality, because of deleting the existing functionality, or because of modifying the existing functionality, or because of bug fixes. So because of all these reasons, there will be some functionality will be impacted. We will identify that feature or identify those functionalities is called as identify those functionalities and test those functionality. That is called as regional regression testing, which is called as regional regression testing. So understood the difference. So the first unit regression testing, only the changes done by the developer we will test. But in the regional regression testing, we are going to test the changes. Along with this, impacted areas also we are going to test. But how we will know the impacted areas? During impact analysis meeting with the developers, we will consolidate all the impacted functionalities or impacted features, and we will test those features also. That is regional regression testing. There is another testing called as full regression testing. Full regression testing, understand this difference. Full regression testing means what? Let us say I have multiple modules in my application. Let us say 1 2 3 4 5 6, there are multiple modules are there in my application. So I have reported one bug in particular module to the developer. Okay. And developer, what the developer is done is a developer fix that bug on that particular module, and by fixing the bug he has modified a lot on other modules also, the other functionalities. Almost for 100% features in these modules, almost to 80% of the features are got modified. So developer, while fixing the bug, he is also touched other modules, and also he modified a lot of other functionalities in other modules. Almost 80% of the modules he has almost modified them because of fixing this bug. At the time of fixing the bug, developer modified almost every module. So in that case, we don't do normally impact analysis. Why? Because almost 80% of the code is modified, right? So because of that change, instead of doing impact analysis, we can do one full round of regression testing. What does that mean? Just for doing impact analysis on specific module, that is again wasting of time here, because he is almost modified each and every module in your application. Almost everywhere he modified because of that bug fix. So instead of doing impact analysis on every module, identifying the scenarios, it again takes a lot of time and it is a wasting of time. So instead of doing that, we will do one full round of regression. So we will test almost every module which is modified by the developer because of that bug fix. That is called as a full regression testing. So here impact analysis cannot be done because he's almost modified every module. Instead of, if we do impact analysis in this case, it is again wasting of time. So instead of wasting the time, we will do one round of full regression, means we will test each and every module which is recommended by the developer. So that is called as full regression testing. So let me repeat once again. So regression testing means what? Whatever bug fixes, sometimes on the build, developer may add a new functionality or delete the functionality or modify the functionality, or sometimes he may fix the bugs. And because of those changes, the existing functionality which is already there in the application should not be impacted or should not be broken. To make sure, what you will do, we will test the changes from the developer along with the existing functionality of the application. That is called as a regression testing. So unit regression testing, regional regression testing, full regression testing. In the unit regression testing, we testers only test the changes or modifications done by the developer. Whereas in the regional regression testing, testing the modified module along with the impacted areas. And how we will know the impacted areas? In impact analysis meeting, we conduct to identify impacted modules or impacted areas, and where we will discuss along with QA and dev. And then we'll identify the impacted areas and we will test them along with the changes. That is called regional regression testing. So full regression testing means what? Testing the main feature and remaining part of the application. Almost everything we will test in the full regression, because the developer has changed a lot of things. He modified each and everything in the build. Almost 80% of the code is modified. So instead of identifying impacted area, one round of full regression, we will do that. So that is called as full regression. Okay, that is an example. So dev has done some changes in many modules. Instead of identifying impacted modules, we perform one round of full regression. Okay, So this is all about regression testing. So we have unit regression testing, regional regression testing, and full regression testing. So are you guys clear on this? Please confirm in the chat window what is regression testing. Very, very important testing. So we have to test the modifications or bug fixes, new functionality, existing function. Because of those changes should not be impacted. Other functionality should not be impacted. That is called as regression testing. All right. So next we'll move on to the retesting. The next terminology is retesting. Retesting. So what is a retesting? Retest. Test again. The term itself is says retesting means we have to conduct the testing again and again. That is called retesting. So what exactly it means? Let me give you one example. Retesting. Suppose in my application, let's say I have my build in my application. I found one defect. Okay, I found the defect and I reported that defect to the developer. I reported to the developer. I reported that bug to the developer. So once the developer will fix that bug and again will provide the another build. Okay, he will provide the another build. So in the, let's say this is my build number one, this is my build number two. In the next version of build, that is build number two, whatever defect we already reported in build number one, the bug again we will verify in the build number two. That is called as a retesting. So regression retesting means what? Whatever bugs we reported in the previous builds, those bugs are fixed or not, we will verify in the upcoming builds. That is called as a retesting. So why you're calling retesting means we already tested this functionality. It is not working earlier. But now again we are testing the same functionality whether it is working fine or not in the build number two. That is called as retesting. Retesting. Okay, retesting. So whatever we reported the bug, which is fixed in the next build, and then again we are retesting the same functionality whether it is working fine or not. That is called as a retesting. Simple. But in the regression testing, what you will do, we will test that functionality along with the other functionalities also, impacted areas also we are tested. But in the retesting, we just verify the bugs what we have reported earlier, and whatever the bug fixes we got, we verify only those bugs. That is called retesting. Small difference. Let me understand again. Whenever the developer fixed a bug, tester will test the bug fix, is called as a retesting. So what is bug fix means? Bug fix is a nothing but a fixed bug. Whatever the bug is already developer fixed, that is called as a bug fix. Is a technical term. So whenever the developer fixed a bug, what tester will do? Tester will test the bug fix, which is called as a retesting. Because we are testing again whenever the developer fixed that bug. And tester close that bug if it is worked. Otherwise, he again reopen and send to the developer. This is again continuous process, guys. Suppose we reported the bug to the developer. Developer is given the bug fix. Again, if it is not working, what you will do? Again, we will report to the developer. And again, developer will fix it and give back. Again, we will retest it. If it is working fine, we will close that bug. If it is not working, again we reopen and again resend to the developer. So this is a continuous process. Until unless the bug is or defect is closed, we keep on reporting the bugs, we keep on reopening the bugs. So tester close the bug if it is worked. Otherwise, he reopens and resend to the developer. And to ensure that the defects which were found and posted in the earlier build were fixed or not in the current build. So the main intention of conducting the retesting is whatever bugs we reported in the previous builds, they are fixed in the new build or current build or not. So that is the main intention of doing retesting. And the next examples, suppose let us say build number 1.0 was released and test team found some defects. Let us say 1.0.1, 1.0.2 and posted those defects or reported those defects into the developer. Now in the build number 1.1, that is the next build or next release. Now what tester should do? Now testing the defects, same defects, whatever reported in the previous builds, we are again verifying those defects working fine or not. That is called as a retesting. Okay, understand the difference. So retesting means whatever bugs we reported in the previous build, in the next build we are verifying the same functionality, whether the developer is fixed those bugs or not. We are retesting the same functionality again and again. So for retesting the functionality, what we are doing, we are executing this test case again and again. Okay, so if you want to test some functionality, we will have one test case, we will execute the test case. What is a test case? Means step by step execution. So what we are executing certain steps and working fine or not. What is expected, what is actual? Expected and actual is exactly matching or not. So that we are calling as a test case. So in the first build, whatever the bug we reported, and that bug is fixed or not in the next build. To verify that, we have to execute the same test case again. So executing the test cases again and again is also called as retesting. Verifying the functionality again and again in the upcoming builds is called as retesting. Okay, so regression testing and the retesting. So have clarity on these two, very, very important. And people will ask in interview also, what is the difference between retesting and regression testing? So in the retesting, we are just verifying the bugs, whatever we reported earlier, and the coming builds, they are fixed or not. So retesting the functionality. But in the regression testing, whatever bugs we reported in the previous builds, along with that, the new functionality which is added or modified or deleted, because of those changes, there should not be impact on the other areas. Other impacted areas also we are going to test as part of regression testing. So this is a basic difference between retesting and regression testing. So very, very important question in interview. So are you guys clear on this? Difference between retesting and regression testing. Everybody, please confirm in the chat window. So retesting and regression testing. Okay, great. So now let us move on to the next type of testing. So the next type of testing is, so before going to the next example, let me just give you one more example. Retesting versus regression testing. Okay, so this is one testing, then you can understand very clearly. Okay. Okay. Now, let me just give you one small example before going to the next type of testing. So retesting and regression testing. So let us see the basic understanding and difference. So let us say I have three features on my application. Let's say admin, purchase, and finance. Okay, there is an admin feature in my application or admin module, purchase and finance, and these three modules are dependent. Okay, purchase module is depend on admin, finance module is depends on purchase. So these are integrated modules. Okay, and admin, purchase, and finance. So here, let us say tester found a bug on purchase module. So purchase is one module and tester found some bug in that and also posted to the developer or reported to the developer. So once the developer is fixed that bug in the purchase module, in the retesting, what you will do? We will verify only that particular bug, whether it is fixed or not. We will retest that functionality. That is retesting. But because of that bug, because of those changes, the finance module also will be impacted because this is also depends on the purchase module. Okay, this is the impacted module. So in the regression testing, what you will do apart from the bug fix, we are also going to test the finance module. Okay, that is a regression testing. So retesting is testing the only the bug fix, no other functionalities. In the regression testing, verifying the bugs along with the impacted functionalities. And those impacted functionalities can be there in the same module or other module, sometimes in every module in our application. Okay, so understand the difference. So if you do the changes, if you do the if you test the impacted areas only within that module because of the change, that is unit regression testing. And if you test the impacted areas in other modules, one or two modules, then that is called regional regression testing. If you conduct testing on every module because of the change, which is called as full regression testing. Okay, just understand the difference, retesting and regression testing. Now let us move on to the another testing called smoke and sanity testing. Smoke and sanity testing. Okay, now let us discuss that. Smoke testing and the sanity testing, guys. These are also very, very, very important. And definitely interview people will ask you smoke testing and sanity testing. Let us try to understand what exactly they are. First, let us start with the smoke testing and then sanity testing. Smoke testing, and both are basically basic functionality testing. So in the smoke or sanity testing, we don't test the application in detailed. Very basic functionality we are going to test. We are going to test. Let us understand the first smoke testing. What is a smoke testing? So whenever the developer is provided a build to the tester, let us say developer is providing the build to the tester, or we can say tester team. So as soon as we get the build from the developer, build is nothing but a software, a piece of software which contains some number of features. Okay. So whenever we get the build from the developer, as a tester, what you will do is you don't directly go in deeper of application. So you do some basic functionality testing. You do some basic functionality testing. What is basic functionality testing means? As soon as you get the build from the developer, first you will verify you got the complete build or not. You got the installer properly or not, or is there any files are missing in the installer, that you will verify. And then you will do installation part. So you install the build in your QA environment and installation is perfectly working or not. Build is basically stable or not to continue further testings. So you have to mainly focus on that area. That is mainly called as smoke testing. Smoke testing in the sense you're basically verifying the health checkup of that particular build, whether the particular build is stable on your environment or not, properly installed or not, and basic navigations are working or not. For example, when I open the URL, I'm getting the home page or not. When I click on something, some link, which is navigating to the next page or not. The basic level of testing you are performing before conducting the in detail testing or in depth testing. That is called as a smoke testing. Okay, smoke testing is a basic functionality testing, which is also called as a build verification testing, because here we are not focusing on the major features of application. We are just focusing on the build. We are just focusing on the build, whether the build, the software contains all the files properly or not, or anything is missing, and build is properly installing in our Q environment or not without any issues. And once successfully installed, whether we are able to navigate between the pages properly or not. This is called as a smoke testing. Very, very basic functionality testing is called as a smoke testing. And to doing this, we don't have any specific test cases or nothing. We're just verifying the build. So which is called as a build verification testing. That is called smoke testing. Okay, understand this. Now, in initial days, the first, whenever the software development testing processes started, in the first few cycles of testing, we will always get unstable builds, because build will not be, cannot be installed, unstable builds. And suppose if you are not able to install the builds, you cannot continue with the rest of the testing. So in few testing cycles, we will release the unstable builds. So smoke testing will be conducted very frequently in every build, whatever we are getting from the developer. In every build, whether the build, whether the software or build or installer contains all the files or not, and whether it's properly installing or not, basic navigations are working or not, URL is working or not. So these things will be verified at the beginning level. And if these things are perfectly working, that means the build is stable. But initial cycles, initial testing cycles, you will never get stable build. You will always get unstable build, because just the developer is started development. So you don't expect the build will be stable in the initial days itself. So you will conduct the smoke testing. Okay, you will conduct the smoke testing. After few many cycles, slowly build becomes stable. Okay, in that time, as soon as the developer is providing the builds will be stable after few many cycles. In that case, you will conduct the sanity testing. Okay, this is also basic functionality testing, but it is mainly focusing on the functionalities, very high level functionalities. Not only the build, installation, navigations, it is also checking the main functionalities like login is working or not. Okay, products on the application is displaying or not, and links are properly working or not, like login, logout is working or not. So basic functionality testing we are going to conduct at the functional level or features level. That is called as a sanity testing. Okay, that is called as a sanity testing. So smoke testing and the sanity testing both are comes under basic functional testing. We are going to test application at very high level. But what exactly difference means? Smoke testing will be conducted the initial days of testing life cycle, because most of the times in the initial cycles we will get the unstable builds. So we have to verify the stability of the build, whether the build is stable or not. What is stability means? It should successfully installed and the basic navigation should perfectly work. That is called as a stability. So once the stability is done, then we conduct sanity testing, regression, functional, and rest of the testings will be conducted. So that is a smoke testing and a sanity testing. And smoke testing can be done by either tester or developers also. Can be done by testers or developers also. And before delivering this build to the tester, before giving the build to the tester, developer, they also do some smoke testing in their environment, right? Because before providing the build to the tester, developer will install that application in their environment also, right? Don't blindly they will give the application to the tester. They will also install our application or software in their environment, in the dev environment, and the basic functionality is working or not. They will test it, and after that they will release to the tester. So there it is called as a smoke testing. So developer can also do the smoke testing, and once you get the build, tester also can do the smoke testing. The build is properly installed or not, basic function is working or not. But sanity testing is always conducted by the tester only, because the developer will not test any features or functionality. He will test the only build. But sanity testing, what you will do, we are verifying the basic functionality is working fine or not. Once the build is stable, the basic functionality is working or not. So sanity testing is always done by the testers. And smoke testing can be done by developers and also testers. Okay. And smoke testing will be conducted on unstable builds most of the times. And if the build is a stable, then we will concentrate on main functionality, very high level. That is called sanity testing. If smoke and sanity testing is successful, then only we will accept the build from the developer. Remember guys, sometimes we can also reject the build. Developer is provided some build and smoke testing, sanity testing is successful or passed, then we can accept the build and then we'll continue with the rest of the testings. But if the smoke testing is got or sanity testing has got failed, then we will reject the build and developer will create another build and provide that build to the tester. So this is exact process will happen in the software testing process. Okay. So whenever we receive the build from the developer, smoke testing should be done, and which will basically focus on the stability of the application or stability of the build. Basically installation process will come into smoke. And once the build is stable, then we'll conduct the sanity testing. So basic functionality testing is functional features are working or not, very high level, not in detail. So once these testings are passed, then we'll accept the bill and continue with the rest of the testing. So that is called as smoke and sanity testing. Okay. So first we'll conduct the smoke testing. Smoke is nothing but the first testing we have to conduct as soon as we get the build from the developer. Because until unless installation is successful, how we will conduct, how we will test the rest of the features? It is not at all possible, right? Your build, whatever the software you are receiving from the developer, first you have to install it and then you can do some testings. So that is smoke testing, stable or not, install or not in your environment. That is most important thing. So once a build is installed successfully, basic things are working, and then we are focusing on the main features, sanity is working or not, right? So sanity is also sometimes part of the regression testing. So once you developer fix some defect, we are going to verify the defect apart from this other impacted areas. So we verify the sanity, we conduct the sanity testing on the other impacted areas. So these two are the called basic functionality testing, smoke and sanity testings. And as when you have to conduct these two testings, whenever you receive the build from the developer, in every cycle, you will get multiple builds, not only single build, because developer will do a lot of changes. They will add a new functionality, delete the existing functionality, and they do some changes on other builds, other functionalities. So every time you will get the new build from the developer. So whenever you get the new build from the developer, smoke testing will be conducted and then sanity testing will be conducted. And if there are any bug fixes, you should also conduct regression testing. So this is all about smoke testing and sanity testing. Now let us see the differences between smoke testing and sanity testing. Okay. So let me just say what are the examples of smoke testing and sanity testing. So as I said before, smoke test is done to make sure the build we received from the development team is testable or stable or not. Sanity test is done during the release phase to check for the main functionality of the application without going deeper. That means what? As soon as we get the build from the developer, we verify the build stable or not. Stable or not, how we will know that? We have to install it first of all. Installation should be successful. Basic navigation should work. Then we can say the build is stable. But when we have to conduct sanity testing, once the smoke is done and very high level, the basic functionality we are going to verify. That is sanity testing. And smoke testing is performed by both the developers and testers. As I said before releasing the software to the testers, developer will cross check whether it is properly installable or not. So that is smoke testing from the developers. And once the build is released to the testers, testers will conduct the smoke testing. So testers will install the build on their environment and test whether it is successfully installed and properly or not. That is smoke testing. So smoke testing can be done either both developers as well as testers. And sanity testing is only performed by the testers alone because they know exactly functionality of the application. Okay. And smoke testing build may be either stable or unstable. So when I conduct the smoke test, why we are conducting the smoke testing? To check the build is stable or unstable, right? We have to know. We will know once you conduct the smoke testing, we will know whether build is stable or not. If it is not stable, then installation will definitely fail. If installation is successful, the basic navigation will fail. Sometimes URL will be pinged. So once you open the URL, homepage will not be displayed. So that means build is not stable. So in the smoke testing, build may be either stable or unstable. If it is unstable, immediately we reject the build. Then we will get another build from the developer. But in sanity testing, build is relatively stable. So once the build is stable, then we will verify the basic functionality of the application. Login is working or not, logout is working or not, or links are working or not. So these things we are going to verify. Once the build is stable, that is a sanity testing. That is also mainly focusing on the high level features. Now, smoke testing done on initial builds. Most of the times in the starting, in the beginning of test life cycles, most of the times we will get unstable builds, unstable builds. So there we will conduct smoke testing. And the sanity testing will be conducted on stable builds. First installation should be successful and basic navigation should work on the application, and then we will conduct other testing. So sanity testing will be done on the stable builds. And smoke testing is a part of basic testing and sanity testing is a part of regression testing. And smoke testing usually done every time there is a new build is released. And the sanity testing is planned when there is no enough time to do in-depth testing. Suppose tomorrow I have to release the application and you don't have such time to execute all the test cases. So what I will do is you will do basically sanity testing. So basic functional is working or not, and then release to the next department. Okay. So whenever you don't have much time and if you want to very test high level of the application, then you can also conduct sanity testing. So these are the differences between smoke testing and sanity testing. Smoke testing and sanity testing, both are basic functionality testing. But the difference is in smoke testing is done at the beginning of the test cycles to check build is stable or not. In sanity testing, we are verifying the basic functionality is working or not after build is stable. Smoke testing will be done by the testers as well as developers, but sanity testing is always done by only testers because functionality we are verifying. Developer don't test the functionality. Okay, we are verifying the functionality in the sanity testing. Now let me show the picture, then you can understand. So when exactly we conduct smoke testing, when exactly we conduct sanity testing. So for example, we have an initial or unstable build. The first time the developer is releasing the build to the tester, what he will do? We do smoke testing to check the build is stable or not, or build is installable or not. And if the smoke test is passed, then what you will do? We will conduct with the rest of the testing, system testing, all the types of testing, regression testing, rest of the testings we will conduct here. Suppose smoke testing is got failed, smoke test is passed no, then build will be rejected. Build will be rejected. We don't continue any testing on that build. Understand? Okay. So suppose after getting some more cycles, let's build one, build two, after getting few number of builds in the testing life cycle, slowly the build becomes stable. Slowly the build becomes stable. Installation will be successful every time. In that case, we will do sanity testing. Means basic functionality with very high level we are going to test, and that is sanity testing. And if it is passed, then again we'll conduct the rest of the system testing and regression testing. Again, if it is failed, then again we reject the build. In both the cases, either smoke testing and sanity testing is got failed, we reject the build. We don't accept the build. Again, developer will provide another build and will continue with the testing. Okay, so this is a differences between smoke testing and the sanity testing. So the first testing is smoke testing followed by the sanity testing. Smoke testing focus on the stability of the application, whereas sanity testing is focused on the main features at very high level, basic features of the application. And smoke testing conducted at the initial testing life cycle to check the build is stable, whereas sanity testing will be conducted after few cycles, after build is stable and very basic functionality is working or not. So that is sanity testing. So are you guys clear on this? Smoke testing and sanity testing. All right, so now let us move on to the next type of testing, exploratory testing. Exploratory testing. So what is meant by exploratory testing? So exploratory testing. So sometimes what happens is in your testing environment, in your company, so you don't have any requirement, but your application is ready. Okay. Your application is ready, but at that time you don't have any requirement. You don't know the functionality actually. You don't know any, you don't have any FRS document. You don't have any design document. No documentation is available, but your application is ready. Okay. And you have to test the application by exploring the functionality. So you have to test the application by exploring the functionality. Suppose you have joined in some new company. In that company, software is already developed and documentation is still not ready. And they have given that application to you and try to understand the functionality. So they have given that application to you and ask you to understand the functionality and do some kind of testing. So what you will do, without having any documents, without having any test cases or without having any test scenarios, you will explore the application and understand completely and test it. That is exploratory testing. Explore here, explore means what? You don't know anything before that. You don't have any documentation. You don't have any test cases, nothing. You will just explore the functionality of the application based upon your previous experience. So you will open the URL, you will do the login, you will click on some register link, and you will click on some shopping cart, select the products. So without knowing any functionality, you just explore the application and understand the application. While exploring, understand the application and test the functionality, which is called as a exploratory testing. So we have to explore the application, understand it and test it. That is called as exploratory testing. And understanding the application, identify all the possible scenarios and document it, then use it for testing. So in exploratory testing, what you will do is first you will have application and explore each and every option, each and every feature in your application, and document it. Write a small document. What are the scenarios you have identified in your application, and write the document and use those scenarios for testing and test those scenarios. That is called as exploratory testing. So this is completely depends on the tester experience level. Suppose tester is already worked on previous domains or previous projects. He has some kind of experience, and with that experience, the new applications can easily explore. Suppose you are worked on some banking application and it is completed project. Then you have joined in another company. There also you got some banking application, and without any documentation also you can easily explore the application because you have some previous knowledge on the banking domain. You know exactly how bank works, how functionalities will be there, and the same functionalities you can expect in the new application, new project also. So explore the functionality of the application without having any document, and exploring it parallel you test those features or test those scenarios. That is comes under exploratory testing. So we do exploratory testing when the application ready but there is no requirement. So test engineer will do exploratory testing when there is no requirement. Okay, understand, this is exploratory testing. So just we have to identify the application, understand the application by going through all the flows and test it without any documentation. That is exploratory testing. But there are some drawbacks in the exploratory testing, and this is another important interview question. So what are the drawbacks in exploratory testing? So first question is, when you will do exploratory testing? So exploratory testing will be done if the application is ready but there is no documentation. In that case we conduct exploratory testing. But what are the drawbacks in exploratory testing? There are few drawbacks are there, very very important. So the first and most important drawback is you might misunderstand any feature as a bug or any bug as a feature. You can misunderstand any feature as a bug or a bug as a feature. So for example, let us say I have a small login screen. So let's try to understand with the example, guys. What is the drawback in exploratory testing? So you have an application in which there is a login screen. So in the login screen, normally with your previous experience, what you will expect, the login screen most of the times will contains a username and password. Let's username and password. Along with this, let us say some ID. There is one more field is available in application. Now, based on your previous experience while exploring the application, username, password will be there. Okay, that is fine. But additionally, you can see some employee ID here. Okay, so you don't have any documentation which talks about the functionality. But what you will assume, you may assume like this is a bug because a login should not contains this one, right? Only username, password, okay, cancel button should be there. But other than this field, if you found some other field or some other feature, you may think that is a bug because you don't have proper document. You are just doing exploratory testing. So there are some chances you misunderstand whether this feature is a bug. Okay, so that is one problem. Suppose sometimes there will be bug and you can consider that also feature. Okay, sometimes same emp id is provided and this is a feature, part of the feature, but you will think like it should not be there in your username password. The login means only you should expect only username password, it should not be there. You may consider this as a bug or you may consider as this feature because you don't have a such document which says this is a part of the feature or this is not part of the feature. If it is not part of the feature, you can consider that is a bug. Okay, if it is a part of the feature, then you can consider as a functionality or feature, that is not a bug. So you don't know exactly whether that is a bug or feature. You cannot discriminate it because you don't have such document which says the functionality of the application. So this is a major drawback in exploratory testing, guys. Very, very important. So in exploratory testing, you might misunderstand any feature as a bug or any bug as a feature. Sometimes you may think a bug is a feature. Sometimes you may think a feature is a bug, but we don't have such requirement document. So that is a one of the important drawback while performing the exploratory testing. And then time consuming, because you don't know the requirement, you are just keep on exploring each and every functionality.
It takes a lot of time. If you have a documentation, directly you will test the application. You will verify all the scenarios based upon the documentation, which will complete within less time because you already have documentation. But you don't have any documentation, nothing. You're just go and exploring the application. It takes a lot of time because you don't find any help there. So it is a time consuming process. And finally, if there is any bug in the application, you'll never know about it. If there is any bug in the application, you will never know about it because is there any documentation there? No, no documentation says about feature or bug. So sometimes if you have a bug in your application, you don't think that is a bug because you don't have any documentation or anything. So you don't know exactly whether it is a bug, really a bug or not. So that is another biggest problem. So there are some chances to miss some number of bugs. So these are the main three disadvantages or drawbacks of exploratory testing. Remember, very, very important. So in exploratory testing, we are exploring the functionality of the application without having documentation. We don't have any test cases, we don't have any document, nothing. We are just exploring the functionality of the application ourselves without depending on anything else. And we are identifying all the scenarios and document it and use those scenarios for testing purpose. That is exploratory testing. So when you will conduct this, if application is ready but documentation is late or by the time it is not yet implemented, in those cases you will conduct exploratory testing. So the drawback in the exploratory testing means you might misunderstand a bug as a feature or a feature as a bug. You don't know exactly which one is a feature, which one is a bug. Because of that reason, it is very difficult to check whether it is a bug or a feature. So these are the drawbacks of exploratory testing. Very, very important testing. And now I'll explain about one more testing called ad hoc testing. So exploratory testing, ad hoc testing, monkey testing. So these three seems very similar type of testings. Okay. First, I will tell you exactly what kind of testings they are. And finally, we'll compare all three testings. Then we can understand the differences. Okay. So now we have discussed about exploratory testing. What is exploratory testing? When you have to perform, what are the drawbacks? Now let us talk about ad hoc testing. So what is ad hoc testing and when you have to perform? So during ad hoc testing, here also we don't have any documentation. We don't have any test cases. We don't have any requirement, nothing. We don't have anything in our hand. We have just have an application. So, but you don't know any functionality on this. So testing the application randomly without any test cases or any business requirement. Here also we are testing the application randomly without any test cases or without any business requirement document. Means what? Suppose I have given application to you and you have some previous experience on some other projects, same kind of domains. And immediately what you do, you can do some kind of testing. Ad hoc testing you can conduct. Ad hoc is nothing but a randomly test the functionalities with knowing the functionality. Means what? Based upon your previous experience, you can assume the functionality. Okay, so login should be there, you know how it should work. Logout link is there, you know how it should work. Okay, and inbox, Gmail inbox is there, you know how it should work. So to test these things, you don't need any documentation. So randomly you can test the features, which is called as ad hoc testing. So testing application randomly without any test cases or any business requirement is called ad hoc testing, and which is an informal testing type with the aim to break the system. So informal testing means what? We don't have any proper plan. We don't have any such a cycle where you have to conduct ad hoc testing. So we don't have like in case of sanitary and smoke testing, like whenever we get the bill, immediately we have to conduct those testings. But in ad hoc testing, we don't have such type of rule. We can conduct ad hoc testing at any time. So because we have to test the application, we have to test the application. It is not a basic functionality testing. We have to test each and everything randomly. Okay, so it is informal means we can conduct at any time whenever it is needed. And the main intention of doing ad hoc testing is to break the application. So why we have to break the application? Because This is a fundamental job of a tester. Tester is always try to break the application, try to find the defects at the corner levels. That's the main intention of doing testing. So we always think about the negative way, guys. If you see the application, some fields, you always think you need to have some kind of analytical skills. So suppose if I provide some data, it is working fine. And if I provide something else, it should not work, right? Suppose if I say small username field, try to enter some characters, try to enter some numbers, try to enter some special characters, try to enter some space, and let's see what is happening. So this kind of skill set the tester should always have it. So our intention is always break the system or break the breaking, in the sense some functionality should not work. In that way we have to cover the testing. So it is an informal testing, so there is should not be any plan for that. Whenever you need, you can conduct ad hoc testing. So randomly test the application, and whatever feature you find an application, you can test it. That is called as random testing. And here you know some knowledge of application based upon your previous experience. You know some functionality here. You know how login works, you know how logout works, you know how can set the products, you know how to add the product to the cart, you know already something. So based on that you can perform this testing, ad hoc testing. And seems very similar, exploratory, ad hoc, and next I'm going to discuss monkey testing also, but there is a difference. I'll consolidate all three and I'll explain the differences also. Okay, first let us understand individual test case. Like we have understood what is exploratory testing, now we are understanding ad hoc testing, and then we'll understand the monkey testing. After that we will compare it. Okay, so ad hoc testing is nothing but testing the application randomly and without any test cases or documents. But we know some functionality even though we don't have a document. Based on our previous experience we can assume the functionality. Okay, and tester should have knowledge of application even though he doesn't have requirement or test cases. How we will have the knowledge depends on your previous experience. Okay, and this testing is usually is unplanned. We don't have any planning for this testing. Whenever it is needed, we can conduct this testing. Ad hoc testing means randomly test the functionality, but here we know the functionality, we can assume the functionality of the application. This is ad hoc testing. And you can also conduct this testing to find the corner scenarios. Sometimes your functional test cases or whatever test case you have written, they may catch the corner scenarios. Corner scenarios in the sense what? While using the application somewhere which is not identifiable. In those cases, in the corner scenarios, we have to conduct some kind of testing. That is ad hoc testing. Random testing. While doing random testing also, you may find some number of defects. Okay, so this is ad hoc testing. Now come to the another type of testing called monkey testing and gorilla testing. So monkey testing and gorilla testing, and here also we test the application randomly but without knowing any functionality. Here also we don't have any documentation, no test cases, nothing. But here also we are testing the application randomly but without knowledge of application. We don't know anything about application. Testers do not have knowledge of application. But in ad hoc testing, we have to know about application. Based on your previous experience, you can assume the functionality and you can test it. So you have to know about application even though you don't have a documentation. But here you don't have a documentation and also you don't know about application. But still you can conduct some testing, which is called as monkey testing. Example, gaming application. Suppose in your mobile or tab, you found some games, right? And normally the children will play games, right? So they don't know exactly, initial days they don't know exactly how to play with the games. So as soon as you open the game, they will do some kind of clicking and they do a lot of things randomly, but they don't know exactly how to work with that. In those cases, application should not break. That is called monkey testing. So here and then we will jump and then do some kind of testing without knowing functionality of the application. You don't know how to work with that, you don't know how it is working with that, but still you can just randomly click on something and see what is happening. So that is the kind of testing we do, which is called as monkey testing or gorilla testing. Why we are calling monkey testing means it is not as stable. Sometimes we click on that button, click on this button, select the radio button, and without entering any data, just directly click on OK button. or submit button, then we'll see what is exactly happening. Especially gaming applications, people will do this kind of testing, monkey testing. And here also we do testing randomly without any documentation or requirement, which is also informal. And the thing is, here tester also don't know the knowledge of applications, so suitable for gaming applications. So now if I see ad hoc testing, exploratory testing, ad hoc testing, monkey testing, three seems very similar. But now let us understand the differences between these three. So first start with ad hoc testing. In ad hoc testing, no documentation. Even monkey testing is also no documentation. Exploratory testing is also no document. No documentation in the sense what? We don't have a test cases. We don't know the scenarios. We don't have any FRS document. Nothing is available. But in both three cases, application is available. Our software is available, but there is no documentation. So in ad hoc testing, monkey testing, and exploratory testing, in three types of testings, there is no documentation. Next point. And these three testings, to conduct these three testings, there is no plan. We can conduct it anytime. Okay, there is no proper schedule. But rest of the testing, like regression testing, functional testing, we have a proper schedule. And from so and so date to so and so date, we have to conduct this type of testing. There is a plan. But to conduct these testings, there will not be any plan. We can conduct it any time. Ad hoc testing, monkey testing, and exploratory testing. Next, all three are informal testings because there is no plan. If it is a plan and schedule, that is a purely formal testing. But due to there is no plan at all, so we can just say informal testing process, informal testings. Now, let's see the differences. In ad hoc testing, tester should know the application functionality. So tester should know the application functionality. He has some kind of experience on the same kind of projects earlier. Then he can assume the functionality of the application. He can do some testing. Randomly test the functionality by knowing the functionality. That is ad hoc testing. Randomly test the application without knowing the functionality is called monkey testing. So tester doesn't know the application functionality, but in ad hoc testing, tester should know the application functionalities. In monkey testing, tester doesn't know the application functionalities. But when you come to the exploratory testing, here also tester doesn't know the application functionality. But here we are exploring the functionality. We are exploring the application, then we come to know the functionality. So in monkey testing and exploratory testing also, we don't know the application functionality or features. We are just testing randomly. But in ad hoc testing, we know some functionality based upon your previous experience. Now, all three are random testing. So why say random means there should not be any order we need to follow. We don't need to follow any order. So random testing. Randomly you can choose any other functionalities and you can test it in all three kinds of testing. So random testing. Now, the intention is to break the application or find out the corner defects. Why we do ad hoc testing? Intention is to break the application. We will check somewhere our application is breaking or not. And somewhere some corner scenarios are working properly or not. That is the main intention of ad hoc testing. And the main intention of the monkey testing is also break the application and finding the corner defects. And the main intention of exploratory testing is to learn and explore the functionality of the application. And exploratory testing, the mainly our focusing on learning the application because we don't know the application. We don't have any documentation. So we are going to learn the application. Even we don't have a prior knowledge of that application. So the main intention of doing in exploratory testing is to explore the functionality of the application and then test it. Okay. And ad hoc testing can be done on any kind of applications, and monkey testing especially preferred for gaming applications because children, most of the times children will play with the games, so they don't know exactly how we need to operate those games. So gaming applications. And exploratory testing also can be done on any application which is new to the testers. Okay, because I'm a tester, I have an application, I don't know about that, I don't know about any functionality of the application, then exploratory testing will be done. Explore the functionalities, identify all the scenarios, and use those scenarios for testing. So these are the similarities and differences between ad hoc testing, monkey testing, and exploratory testing. Guys, you are understood now? Please confirm in the chat window, everyone. Now, let us move on to the next type of testing called positive testing and a negative testing. So these again seems very similar. Positive testing and a negative testing. Now let us see about positive testing or negative testing. Now let us see what is positive testing, what is negative testing. So before that, let me write here. Exploratory testing we have discussed. Ad hoc testing, and then monkey testing. Okay, these retesting, regression testing are similar. Seems very similar, but not similar. Okay, so that's the reason we compared them. And these three seems very similar, but they are not similar. So we have compared them. And now I'm talking about positive testing and then negative testing. So now we'll understand what is positive testing, what is a negative testing. Positive testing and negative testing. So testing the application with valid inputs is called as a positive testing. Simple. So testing the application with the positive inputs and working or not, that is positive testing. And testing the application with the negative inputs and it should not work, that is negative testing. So for example, let us take a small text box and my requirement is the text box allows only numbers. The text box allowed only numbers. So if I provide only numbers into the text box, it should allow. That is a positive testing. That is a positive testing. So from 0 to 9999, you can enter any number in this text box. So it should accept. This is positive testing because we provided the positive input to the application. So testing the application with the valid inputs is called as positive testing. It checks whether an application behaves as expected with the positive inputs. And this is an example. Now, negative testing. Testing the application with invalid inputs is called negative testing. For example, in this box, it is accepting only numbers. But what I have done here, we are trying to test whether it is accepting characters or not. When I pass numbers, it should accept. That is positive testing. Now, when I pass a characters or spaces or special symbols, then it should not accept. That is our negative testing. So always we have to think positive as well as negative way, guys, as a tester. Okay, so because as a end user, as a user, I can provide anything into the text box, but is a tester responsibility test that application in all kinds of scenarios. You should not miss even a small scenario. Okay, in all the conditions with all the different type of data, you have to test in all the cases. Whether you provide the positive input, it should work as per your expectation. When I pass invalid input, it should not work. Okay, it should differently work. Suppose when I say valid username, valid password, it should successfully log in. That is a positive testing. When I pass invalid username and invalid password, the application should not log in. That is a negative testing. So test the application with the positive data is called positive testing. Test the application with the negative data, which is called as a negative testing. So when you're writing your test cases, we have to make sure you should cover positive test cases as well as negative test cases. Okay, so this is a positive and negative simple test case. Okay, let us say this is an example. I have given one enter only numbers, but what I have entered here, alphabets. So how we can perform the negative testing? We can enter small characters from A to Z, uppercase characters from A to Z, special symbols, spaces. These are all negative data, negative test data. So whenever you provide this kind of data, your text box should not allow it. You should give some message or error, invalid input, something like that. So that is negative testing. That is negative testing. So testing the application with the positive or valid data, which is called as positive testing. Testing the application with negative data or invalid input, that is called as negative testing. Very simple. Now, this is the example I have given, positive versus negative test cases. For example, let us say I have a small requirement here. A text box is listed as a feature in FRS. It is mentioned as a text box accepts 6 to 20 characters and only alphabets. Read the requirement once again. 6 to 20 characters. The number of characters should be 6 to 20, minimum 6, maximum 20. And those characters are only alphabets. Alphabets means what? A to Z, either uppercase characters or lowercase characters. So that's the requirement. Now, when I see the positive test cases, what are all positive test cases will come here? Text box accepts 6 characters. Yes or no? Yes. Text box accept up to 20 characters. Yes, this is also positive test case because 6 to 20 we said. Text box accepts any value in between 6 to 20 characters. Yes, 6 to 20 means what? I can enter 10 characters, 15 characters, or 18 characters, anything, right? Between these two numbers, I can enter any number of characters. And text box accepts all alphabets. So these are all positive test cases. Verify the text box with all kinds of inputs. But what are the negative test cases? Text box should not accept less than 6 characters. Means try to enter less than 6 characters like 5, 4, 3, then it should not accept. That's our expectation. Text box should not accept characters more than 20 characters also. Try to enter 21, 25, something like this, it should not accept. Text box should not accept special characters like question marks, percentage symbol, stars should not accept. Text box should not accept numbers or numericals like 1, 2, 3, 4. Numbers should not accept. So these are all negative test cases. So this is a simple example. Positive test cases and negative test cases. Test the application with the positive input is called positive testing. Testing the application with the negative inputs or invalid inputs are called negative testing. And then end-to-end testing. So what is end-to-end testing? Sometimes your lead will ask you, so perform end-to-end testing. So you need to understand what is end-to-end testing. So end-to-end testing means testing the overall functionality of the application. That functionality covers each and every flow in your application. So let's say I have some application and let's say Gmail application. In the Gmail application, you have a login and you have a compose and you have sent email and deleted email. So different components are there. And I want to test end-to-end functionality. Then what I can do? First, I will log into the application. And after successful login, I'll compose an email. Then I can test that email comes into compose box or not. Then again, delete it from there. Then I'll check which will come to which will come to deleted emails or not. That's it. This is end-to-end testing. So which will cover all the components in sequentially, which is covered all the components. So login box is covered, inbox is covered, sent email is covered, deleted emails also covered. This is called as end-to-end testing. Another example here. So let's say I have a simple banking application. So I want to cover and I want to do end-to-end testing. Means I want to touch each and every functionality in one flow. So I say first login and add customer. And these are the different components also we can test individually. But what is end-to-end testing means which should cover every flow in your application. That means I say login to application. Then I'll try to add a new customer. Then I'll try to delete the customer and edit the customer. Then I log out from application. So this will cover how many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scenarios into one test. So this is called end-to-end test from login to log out. What are all there in between functionalities? We are covering each and every functionality sequentially, which is called as end-to-end testing. So whenever anyone asks you to perform end-to-end testing means you have to make sure each and every functionality or major functionalities will be covered as part of the test case. That is called end-to-end testing. So testing the overall functionalities of the system or application, which includes the data integration among the modules, is called end-to-end testing. So after successful login, I can do add customer. After adding the customer, I can delete the customer or I can edit the customer. Dependent functionalities are there. And then I can log out from the application. So this is called end-to-end testing. So end-to-end testing means what? Testing the overall functionality, which includes each and every component in your application. So that is all about end-to-end testing. Fine. So now globalization and localization testing. Globalization and localization testing. And sometimes if you see some application will support globally, means all different languages. And some application will support specific language, local applications. So example, suppose let us say PayPal. So PayPal is an application which is online payment system, which is there in almost every country throughout the world, right? So it support globally. So all different cultures, all different countries, all different languages. So some applications support globalization concept and support localization. So globalization is what, whether our application is supporting globally or not, all the languages or not. That is globalization testing. Localization testing means what, our application is supporting the local languages or not. That is localization testing. For example, if I take any Chinese related website, so Chinese is a country, all their websites are there in Chinese language, but nobody can understand those website from the world. Only those country specific people can understand, and those country specific people can use those applications. Even other countries also cannot access those applications. In those applications, we can conduct localization testing, whether our applications are supporting their own local languages or not, their own local format. Suppose date will be there, the date format will be different from one country to another country. And if the application support all kinds of formats, that is a globalization. Or if applications support a specific format of date, that is related to specific region or specific geographical country or specific culture, that is localization. So overall, the globalization testing in the sense testing our application which is supporting globally or not. And localization testing means we verify our application is supporting the local community or local languages or not. That is called localization testing. Again, this is again part of the requirement. Now let us understand the points. The globalization testing performed to ensure the system or software application can run in any cultural or local environment. It also includes local. Okay, global means what? Whole world. Local is not, which is a part of the global. So perform to ensure the system or software application can run in any culture or local environment. Different aspects of the software application are tested to ensure that it supports every language and different attributes. See, means global means it should able to support all kinds of languages. In different countries, they can use application in different language. Okay, so that is a globalization support. And it tests the different currency formats. So currencies will be different, mobile number formats will be different, address formats will be different. So if your application support all kinds of currency formats, all kinds of mobile numbers, all formats, all addresses, then we can conduct globalization testing. Basically, we are checking which is supporting all globally common attributes or not. So that is globalization testing. For example, facebook.com, it support multiple languages. In your Facebook, you can do the post in your local languages and global languages also. That's one example. And localization testing, performed to check system or software application for specific geographical and cultural location and specific country. If they are using that application, that support localization. Suppose the language, date formats, okay, and mobile number formats, address formats will be there in the localizer support, and in which format they are exactly falling in their environment. So all that application will support only that format. So we are going to test them. That is called localization testing. So localized product only supports the specific kind of language, and it is usable only in the specific region. And it tests the specific currency format, mobile number format, address format is working properly or not. So here Baidu.com, this is basically like a Google application in China. So in China, people, they don't use any global applications. They will design their own applications. Even Windows also, they have designed in Chinese language. Okay, so google.com, facebook.com, online payment applications, online e-commerce applications, everything they will design their own language for their country, not for the world. So almost all their applications are supporting localization. Okay, if there is another, if you have such type of applications, you have to conduct localization testing. And our in our application, the date formats are related to their local region or not, standard or not, mobile number. So these things we have to focus while performing the globalization and localization testing. Okay, and now that's it, guys. So these are all different testing terminologies, and from the next session we are going to see different testing techniques. So what we have covered in the today's session is what is regression testing, what is retesting, and what are the differences between regression testing and retesting, right? And then we have discussed about smoke testing and sanity testing. Also we have compared exploratory testing, ad hoc and monkey testing. Also we have discussed individually and also have compared. Then positive testing and negative testing. And finally, we discuss end-to-end testing, and then localized testing, localization, and globalization, also called as internationalization. Okay, globalization or internationalization testing. So this is also called as I-18N testing, guys. Okay, I-18 in means I means internationalization. So after I, there are exactly 18 characters are there. So in shortcut, we can say it is I-18N testing. So whenever you see this kind of term, you can understand this is internationalization testing, also called as globalization testing. Okay, so these are the different terminologies which we need to understand in testing. Very, very important. Okay, so I'll stop here for today's session, and in the next session we will discuss about test design technique and other topics. Okay.